As Coloradans, we have the freedom of speech and press, Section 10. We got no ex post facto laws. Let's get in order. So, Section 5, freedom of elections. All elections shall be free and open, and no power, civil or military, shall at any time interfere to prevent the free exercise of the right of suffrage. Section 6, equality of justice. Courts of justice shall be open to every person, and a speedy remedy afforded for every injury to person, property, or character. And right and justice should be administered without sale, denial, or delay. Don't tell Kim Woods or Shelley Quintana or Michael Gonzalez about Section 6. They don't know shit about Section 6. God, they never heard shit. How? If you can't turn in a felony complaint to the clerk or to the judges, how in the world do you get courts of justice? That's not open. The courts of justice are supposed to be open to every person. And a speedy remedy afforded for every person. So not just open, but we're going to hurry up and get you some justice. A speedy remedy for every injury. Not just to your person or property, but even to your character. Let alone if somebody murdered the fuck out of your fucking puppy. Right and justice should be administered without sale, denial, or delay. Yeah, the San Luis Valley judges and the lawyers and the cops, they all need to read that. They got to read that little section there. They had no clue. They had no idea that the citizens actually are allowed to file a complaint in a court of justice. They didn't know that a court of justice is supposed to be open to every person. They had no idea. Michael Gonzalez had no idea about any of these bills of rights. Section 7. Security of person and property, searches, seizures, warrants. The people shall be secure in their persons, papers, homes, and effects from unreasonable searches and seizures, and no warrant to search any place or seize any person or thing shall issue without describing the place to be searched or the person or thing to be seized as near as may be, nor without probable cause supported by oath or affirmation reduced to writing. Section 8, prosecutions, indictment, or information. Here's another thing Michael Gonzalez doesn't understand or know about. My God, does Michael Gonzalez even read the laws anymore? He read the law 20 years ago and then quit reading until otherwise provided. And this was all good law 20 years ago, so he missed it 20 years ago. Until otherwise provided by law, no person shall for a felony be proceeded against criminally otherwise than by indictment, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces, or in the militia when actual service in time of war or public danger. In all other cases, offenses shall be prosecuted criminally by indictment or information. Wait a second. Unless otherwise provided by law, no person shall for a felony be proceeded against criminally otherwise than by indictment. Well, hell, what the hell do you think that means? Does that mean you gotta have a grand jury indictment before you charge a felony on a person? One asshole can't just point at another asshole and then the whole fucking system rapes the second. Oh, well, he accused you, so he accused you of a felony. Except in cases arising in the land or naval forces and in the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger. In all other cases, offenses shall be prosecuted criminally by indictment or information. So all other cases, indictment or information. So, okay, information, but by indictment. And that actually models something in the U.S. Constitution. What did the U.S. Constitution say about that? Was it the 6th Amendment? In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed. That's not the, where's the grand jury? Okay, no person, 5th Amendment. The 5th Amendment. That is a privilege, but it's also some other things too. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime, unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia when in actual service. So when it's wartime, shit's different. When it's wartime, shit's different. But during peacetime, you can't point to some other person and say he did a felony. You can't help for a capital. A capital crime means to execute, right? Or otherwise infamous crime. So either those crimes of which you could get executed or otherwise infamous crime, i.e. felonies. In Colorado, you got your petty offenses, you got your traffic infractions, and you got your misdemeanors. And then you got your felonies. That's your infamous crimes. That's your infamous charges. So that's twice. That's twice it says you can't charge a person with a felony unless you have a grand jury indictment. Which means if you don't have a grand jury in place, then you can't have a grand jury indicting jack shit. Now, can you? We're going to the 12th Amendment once we get... But this is on a roll. Look at this. Freedom after freedom after freedom. Section 9, treason. The states of suicides. Treason against the state could consist only in levying war against it or in adhering to its enemies, giving them aid and comfort. No person could be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of two witnesses to the same overt act or on his confession in open court. No person can be attainted of treason or felony by the General Assembly. No conviction can work corruption of blood or forfeiture of estate. No conviction can work corruption of blood or forfeiture of estate. Don't they have that asset forfeitures? The estates of such persons as may destroy their own lives shall descend or vest as in cases of natural death. Section 10. Freedom of the speech and press. No law shall be passed impairing the freedom of speech. Every person shall be free to speak, write, or publish whatever he will on any subject, being responsible for all abuse of that liberty. And in all suits and prosecutions for libel, the truth thereof may be given in evidence, and the jury, under the direction of the court, shall determine the law and the fact. Section 11. Ex post facto laws. No ex post facto law nor law impairing the obligation of contracts or retrospective in its operation or making any irrevocable grant of special privileges, franchises, or immunities shall be passed by the General Assembly. No ex post facto laws. Section 12. No imprisonment for debt. No person shall be imprisoned for debt unless upon refusal to deliver up his estate for the benefit of his creditors in such manner as shall be prescribed by law, or in cases of tort, or where there is a strong presumption of fraud. Section 13, right to bear arms. The right of no person to keep and bear arms in defense of his home, person, and property, or in aid of the civil power when thereto legally summoned shall be called into question, but nothing herein contained shall be construed to justify the practice of carrying concealed weapons. Section 14, taking private property for private use. Taking private property for private use. Private property shall not be taken for private use unless by consent of the owner, except for private ways of necessity and except for reservoirs, drains, flumes, or ditches on or across the lands of others for agricultural, mining, milling, domestic, or sanitary purposes. Section 15, taking property for public use. Compensation, how ascertained. Private property shall not be taken or damaged for public or private use without just compensation. What about murdering a person's puppy? No, hold on. Where's the part where you're allowed to murder people's puppy? I don't see where the hell do the Michael Gonzalez and Danny Sanchez, where do they get off on this? How do they... Private property shall not be taken or damaged for public or private use without just compensation. Such compensation shall be ascertained by a board of commissioners. Wow, so we need to get a board of commissioners of not less than 3 freeholders, or by a jury when required by the owner of the property in such manner as may be prescribed by law, and until the same shall be paid to the owner or into the court for the owner, the property shall not be needlessly disturbed, or the proprietary rights of the owner therein divested, and whenever an attempt is made to take private property for a use alleged to be public, the question whether the contemplated use be really public shall be a judicial question and determined as such without regard to any legislative assertion that the use is public. Section 16, criminal prosecutions. Rights of the defendant. In criminal prosecutions, the accused shall have the right to appear and defend in person and by counsel, to demand the nature and cause of the accusation, to meet the witnesses against him face to face, to have process, to compel the attendance of witnesses in his behalf in a speedy public trial by an impartial jury of the county or district in which the offense is alleged to have been committed. Section 16A, rights of crime victims. 16A, rights of crime victims. So if someone murders your puppy, then any person who's a victim of a criminal act or such person's designee, legal guardian, or surviving immediate family members, if such person is deceased, shall have the right to be heard when relevant, informed, and present at all critical stages of the criminal justice system. All terminology, including the term critical stages, shall be defined by the General Assembly. Section 17, imprisonment of witnesses, depositions, form. No person shall be imprisoned for the purpose of securing his testimony in any case longer than may be necessary in order to take his deposition. If he can give security, he shall be discharged. If he cannot give security, his deposition shall be taken by some judge of the Supreme District or County Court at the earliest time he can attend at some convenient place by him appointed for that purpose, of which time and place the accused and the attorney prosecuting for the people shall have reasonable notice. The accused shall have the right to appear in person and by counsel. If he has no counsel, the judge shall assign him one in his behalf only. On the completion of such examination, the witness shall be discharged on his own recognizance entered into before said judge, but such deposition shall not be used if the opinion of the court, the personal attendance of the witness might be procured by the prosecution or is procured by the accused. No exception shall be taken to such deposition as to matters of form. So, if you can be a witness at the trial, be a witness at the trial. But if you can't be the witness at the trial, then we need to get you in for a deposition. We need to hurry up and get you in for a deposition. But Michael Gonzalez says, nah, we're not going to do depositions. We're not going to do preliminary hearings. We're not going to do justice. We're not going to do truth and justice. That's not what the court is. They're here to rubber stamp any dumb decision that's made. No, truth and justice, that is not what the SLV 12th Judicial Branch. Section 18, crimes, evidence against oneself, jeopardy. No person shall be compelled to testify against himself in a criminal case, nor shall any person be twice put in jeopardy for the same offense. If the jury disagree, or if the judgment be arrested after the verdict, or if the judgment be reversed for error in law, the accused shall not be deemed to have been in jeopardy. So if the appeal reverses the decision, he can be charged again. And if the judgment is arrested after the verdict, then that means he could be arrested again for the same or similar charges. Probably not, right? Arrest again for a different charge that, may get the conviction. Section 19, right to bail exceptions. Number 1, all persons shall be bailable by sufficient sureties pending disposition of charges except A, for capital offenses when proof is evident or presumption is great, or B, when after a hearing held within 96 hours of arrest and upon reasonable notice the court finds that proof is evident or presumption is great as to the crime alleged to have been committed and finds that the public would be placed in significant peril if the accused were released on bail and such person is accused in any of the following cases. I, a crime of violence as may be defined by the General Assembly alleged to have been committed while on probation or parole resulting from the conviction of a crime of violence. II, 2, a crime of violence as may be defined by the General Assembly alleged to have been committed while on bail pending the disposition of a previous crime of violence charge for which probable cause has been found. 3, a crime of violence as may be defined by the General Assembly alleged to have been committed after 2 previous felony convictions. This is 3, or 1 such previous felony conviction if such conviction was for a crime of violence upon charges separately brought and tried under the laws of this state or under the laws of any other state, the United States, or any territory subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, which, if committed in this state, would be a felony. Or C, deleted by amendment. 2, except in the case of a capital offense, if a person is denied bail under this section, the trial of the person shall be commenced not more than 90 days after the date on which bail is denied. If the trial is not commenced within 90 days and the delay is not attributable to the defense, the court shall immediately schedule a bail hearing and shall set the amount of the bail for the person. 2.5a, the court may grant bail after a person is convicted pending sentencing or appeal only as provided by statute as enacted by the General Assembly, except that no bail is allowed for persons convicted of 1, murder, 2, any felony sexual assault involving the use of a deadly weapon, 3, any felony sexual assault committed against a child who is under 15 years of age, 4, a crime of violence as defined by statute enacted by the General Assembly, or 5, any felony during the commission of which the person used a firearm. B, the court shall not set bail that is otherwise allowed pursuant to this subsection 2.5 unless the court finds that 1, the person is unlikely to flee and does not pose a danger to the safety of any person or the community, and 2, the appeal is not frivolous or is not pursued for the purpose of delay. 3, this section shall take effect January 1st, 1995 and shall apply to offenses committed on or after said date. Section 20, excessive bails, fines, or punishment. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. Section 21, Suspension of habeas corpus. The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall never be suspended unless when in the case of rebellion or invasion the public safety may require it. Section 22. Military subject to civil power. Quartering of troops. The quartering of troops. The military shall always be in strict subordination to the civil power. No soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war except in the manner prescribed by law. Section 23. Trial by jury. Grand jury. The right of trial by jury shall remain inviolate in criminal cases, but a jury in civil cases in all courts or in criminal cases in courts not of record may consist of less than 12 persons, as may be prescribed by law. Hereafter a grand jury shall consist of 12 persons, any 9 of whom concurrent may find an indictment, provided the General Assembly may change, regulate, or abolish the grand jury system, and provided further the right of any person to serve on any jury shall not be denied or abridged on account of sex, and the General Assembly may provide by law for the exemption from jury service of persons or classes of persons. Section 24. Right to assemble and petition. The people have the right peacefully to assemble for the common good and to apply to those invested with the powers of government for redress of grievances by petition or remonstrance. By petition or remonstrance. Section 25. Due process of law. No person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Section 26. Slavery prohibited. There shall never be in this state either slavery or involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted. Section 27. Property rights of aliens. Aliens who are and may hereafter become bona fide residents of this state may acquire, inherit it, possess, enjoy, and dispose of property real and personal as native-born citizens. Section 28. Rights reserved, not disparaged. Rights reserved, not disparaged. The enumeration in this Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny, impair, or disparage others retained by the people. Section 29. Equality of the sexes. Equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the state of Colorado or any of its political subdivisions on account of sex. Right to vote or petition on annexation, enclave. Section 30. We'll get back to that. That's a little long, so let's go to the 12th Amendment. The 12th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. The electors shall meet in their respective states. And then this is changed by the 12th Amendment. Oh no, this was ratified 1804. And I think it's going to have to do with the Electoral College, so pay attention. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for president and vice president, one of whom at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. So you can't have 2 people from Tennessee and you can't have 2 people from Florida. They shall name in their ballots the person voted for as president, and in distinct ballots the person voted for as vice president. They shall make distinct list of all persons voted for as president, and of all persons voted for as vice president, and of the number of votes for each, which list they shall sign and certify and transmit, sealed to the seat of the government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes for president shall be president, if such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed. And if no person has no such majority, you got to have a majority of the electors. You got to have and then that's when Ralph Nader wins. Oh, what? Ralph, Al Gore and George Bush, they only got 150, and it's still beneath the majority, so they didn't get a majority. They got a bunch, but neither one got a majority. Oh, shit. What happens? Well, now you have a runoff election of the top 3, and if no person have such a majority, then from the persons having the highest numbers not exceeding 3 on the list of those voted for as president, not exceeding 3. So that means you're going to take the Republican and the Democrat, and then you're going to take the top third. Who's going to be the top third? It would be Nader. Nader had the most electoral votes, and then it goes to the House of Representatives. The House of Representatives shall choose immediately by ballot the president. But in choosing the president, the vote shall be taken by states, the representation from each state having 1 vote. A quorum for this purpose shall consist of a member or members from 2/3 of the states, and a majority of all the states shall be necessary to a choice. And if the House of Representatives shall not choose a president, whenever the right of choice shall devolve upon them before the 4th day of March next following, then the vice president shall act as president, as in the case of the death or other constitutional disability of the president. The person having the greatest number of votes as vice president shall be the vice president, if such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed, and if no person have a majority, then from the two highest numbers on the list, the Senate shall choose the vice president. A quorum for the purpose shall consist of 2/3 of the whole number of senators, and majority of the whole number shall be necessary to a choice, but no person constitutionally ineligible to the office of president shall be eligible to that of vice president of the United States. Amendment 13. Section 1. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Section 2. Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. Amendment 14. Amendment 14, Section 1. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Section 2. Representatives shall be apportioned among the several states according to the respective numbers, counting the whole number of persons in each state, excluding Indians not taxed. Why do we have that part there? Why is that part there? And what if people are in India? No, it says they don't have to be taxed. But when the person to vote at any election for the choice of electors for president and vice president of the United States, representatives in Congress, the executive and judicial officers of a state, or the members of the legislature thereof, is denied to any of the male inhabitants of such state being 21 years of age and citizens of the United States, or in any way abridged except for participation in rebellion or other crime, the basis of representation therein shall be reduced in the proportion which the number of such male citizens shall bear to the whole number of male citizens 21 years of age in such state. Section 3. No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state, who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof, but Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability. Section 4. The validity of the public debt of the United States authorized by law, including debts incurred for payment of pensions and bounties for services in suppressing insurrection or rebellion, shall not be questioned, but neither the United States nor any state shall assume or pay any debt or obligation incurred in aid of insurrection or rebellion against the United States, or any claim for the loss or emancipation of any slave. But all such debts, obligations, and claims shall be held illegal and void. Section 5. The Congress shall have power to enforce by appropriate legislation the provisions of this article. Amendment 15. Section 1. The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. Section 2. The Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. Amendment 16. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived without apportionment among the several states and without regard to any census or enumeration. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, elected by the people thereof for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. The electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislatures. When vacancies happen in the representation of any state in the Senate, the executive authority of such state shall issue writs of election to fill the vacancies, provided that the legislature of any state may empower the executive thereof to make temporary appointments until the people fill the vacancies by election, as the legislature may direct. This amendment 27 shall not be so construed as to affect the election or term of any senator chosen before it becomes valid as part of the Constitution. Amendment 28. Amendment 28. We'll come back to this in a second. I'm going to go back to Colorado's Section 30, right to voter petition on annexation enclaves. 1. No unincorporated area may be annexed to a municipality unless one of the following conditions first has been met. The question of annexation has been submitted to the vote of the landowners and the registered electors in the area proposed to be annexed, and the majority of such persons voting on the question have voted for the annexation. Or B. The annexing municipality has received a petition for the annexation of such area signed by persons comprising more of 50% of the landowners in the area and owning more than 50% of the area, excluding public streets and alleys and any land owned by the annexing municipality. Or C, the area is entirely surrounded by or solely owned by the annexing municipality. 2, the provisions of this section shall not apply to annexations to the city and county of Denver to the extent that such annexations are governed by other provisions of the Constitution. 3, the General Assembly may provide by law for procedures necessary to implement this section. This section shall take effect upon completion of the canvass of votes taken thereon. Section 38, official language. The English language is the official language of the state of Colorado. But where's the official English language located? Is that on streetslang.com? This section is self-executing. However, the General Assembly may enact laws to implement this section. So that's interesting. America doesn't have an official language, but Colorado does. And what's our official language? English. As provided by the Merriam-Webster's Dictionary, as provided by the Merriam-Webster's website, as provided by the Oxford. Who the hell dictates the English language? Section 30B. No protected status based on homosexual, lesbian, or bisexual orientation. Colorado was a bunch of homophobic bigots in 1996, and this is going to get overturned. I'll read it anyways because it's still in the Constitution. Why can't we got to rewrite this shit, clean this shit up, god damn it. Neither the state of Colorado, through any of its branches or departments, nor any of its agencies, political subdivisions, municipalities, or school districts shall enact, adopt, or enforce any statute, regulation, ordinance, or policy whereby homosexual, lesbian, or bisexual orientation, conduct, practices, or relationships shall constitute or otherwise be the basis of or entitle any person or class of persons to have or claim any minority status, quota, preferences, protected status, or claim of discrimination. This section of the Constitution shall be in all respects self-executing. All the Bill of Rights are self-executing. Section 31, marriages, valid or recognized. Only a union of one man and one woman shall be valid or recognized as a marriage in this state. So again, gay marriage is legal now, so we got to overturn, and this is not a right. These two are not freedoms. It's saying you don't get any extra freedoms if you're gay, okay? You don't get any extra freedoms. They weren't asking for extra freedoms. And then marriages, again, so they double down, right? Well, we were talking about marriages. Well, then you're depriving of freedom to a group of people, right? You're saying those people can't get married. So you're depriving of a right. That's not freedom. That's discrimination. That's prejudicial. That's biased. So gay marriage is legal now, so Section 30 and 30B ain't shit. And it's all the Bill of Rights. You think any of these right-wing fascist cops, judges, or lawyers give a shit about your rights and freedoms? They'll, shrug their shoulders and say, sure you got rights and freedoms. Sure you got rights and freedoms. And that's it for Colorado. Now let's finish off with America's rights and freedoms. Can we do it in less than a minute and a half? Not if you just keep staring at it like this. This article is inoperative unless it shall be ratified as an amendment to the Constitution legislature. Okay, Amendment 24. The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. The 19th Amendment, Congress shall have the power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. 20th Amendment, the terms of the President and Vice President shall end at noon on the 20th day of January, and the terms of senators and representatives at noon on the 3rd day of January of the years in which such terms would have ended if this article had not been ratified, and the terms of their successors shall then begin. Section 2, the Congress shall assemble at least once in every year, and in such meeting shall begin at noon on the 3rd day of January, unless they shall by law appoint a different day. Section 3, if at the time fixed for the beginning of the term of the President-elect shall have died, the Vice President-elect shall become President. If a President shall not have been chosen before the time fixed for the beginning of his term, or if the President-elect shall have failed to qualify, then the Vice President-elect shall act as President until a President shall have been qualified, and the Congress may by law provide for the case wherein neither a President-elect nor a Vice President-elect shall have qualified, declaring who shall then act as president, or the manner in which one who is act shall be selected, and such person shall act accordingly until a president or vice president shall have qualified.